your ego, as good as you might be, has to be willing to hear that. You have to be humble enough to hear what other people have to say and be willing to get better. And I think the piece that the Air Force I thought added, which I thought was really an interesting way of putting it, is this concept of approachability. Because really the job of the weapons school wasn't just to teach pilots to be really good. You had to be able to teach that yourself to other people. That is a massive differentiator.
You go back as a Top Gun instructor in your career. I would like to, from an instructor standpoint, what did you like? What defines success for students? What do you see students struggle with? Like, what
Yeah.
sets students apart? Like, when you're
Yeah.
looking overall, like, what makes a winner? What makes someone who maybe they don't have it?
Yeah, kind of wild. And this is where I think the similarities between the weapons schools, a WIC instructor and a Top Gun instructor, cut from the same piece of cloth. Their attributes, their behaviors, and what they're looking for from the students. A lot of similarities in the cultures of the weapons school instructors on both the services. So, I told you I go to Top Gun, graduate, go to 9/11 kicks off, go to Afghanistan. While I'm on that Afghanistan deployment, I get a call saying, "Hey, would you like to come back to be an instructor after Top Gun?" And it's after I'm sorry, after my deployment to come back to. It's like the script of the movie, man. I'm just living this surreal, like I cannot believe this is happening. But
Did you have
the
your motorcycle at the time? Yeah,
dude,
sorry.
I did I did have a Corvette, if that's worth something. I
Yeah,
was
okay.
driving a vet.
Good. All right. Sorry, I just had to ask.
It's totally, man. But on the serious side of that is, I go to Top Gun as a student in peacetime. I come back after my deployment to Top Gun in wartime. So mentality is very different, as you can imagine. Like all of a sudden, we're training for war. Students are going to go through the course and they're going for war. So that criteria of what we're thinking about, what we're expecting, what constitutes a successful student graduate, a patch wearer who's going to go out and go lead his squadron, and go lead his whatever's his air wing, in war. That criteria was super important. And to be a little cliched, I always liked this mantra the Air Force Weapons School had. They had a mantra that was, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I've got it right, which was humble, credible, and approachable. Those are the three key attributes that I think the Air Force did a really good job defining what was required to be successful. And I always had that same mindset, even though I didn't have the right language. I thought that language was really cool. I never thought of it in those terms. But listen, you had to have someone good in the airplane. You can't be bad in the airplane. And so there's a credibility component that was really, really necessary. That said, the screening process for the weapons schools is pretty good. That is, you can expect, for the most part, without a few exceptions, or with a few exceptions, the students that came to the course were going to be pretty good. It wasn't always, but for the most part, so that credibility piece. But it was important to be good in an airplane. And as the course went on, you had to get better because we are teaching to get better. So that credibility piece was necessary. The humility piece, I think, is where the biggest challenge always was, because humility to me was really, can you listen and learn? So I can come back from my flight with Rain, and if I'm like, hey, Rain, here's some things to think about, here's some things to improve on, and here's where we're making mistakes, here's where we want to get better. Your ego has to be open-minded to what I'm saying. You have to be willing to listen to me. And part of that problem could be we come back from a flight, it might be a really good flight. A really good flight. And I'm going to nitpick and find a couple of really small, fine elements that your ego could be like, oh, you know what, man, you're kind of really splitting hairs here. I was pretty much on my attack window timing. Your ego, as good as you might be, has to be willing to hear that. You have to be humble enough to hear what other people have to say and be willing to get better. And I think the piece that the Air Force I thought added, which I thought was really an interesting way of putting it, is this concept of approachability. Because really the job of the weapons school wasn't just to teach pilots to be really good. You had to be able to teach that yourself to other people. That is a massive differentiator. And if you know this as well as anyone, dude, sometimes the best pilots in the squadron were jerks and nobody liked them
100%.
and they weren't approachable, which meant you could have all the resident knowledge in the world, be the smartest guy there and be the best dude in the airplane. But if nobody want to go, hey, Rain, can I ask you a question about this because you were unapproachable? All that knowledge is wasted because you can't transfer it. So it really was a combination of those three. And I loved how the Air Force Weapons School articulated that. But that really is the way we thought at Top Gun too, which is you got to be good, you got to be humble enough to get better, but you got to be able to teach this. And it's not just leading, follow me, it's leading, let me help you learn how you can get better. Some of that's from my own mistakes, by the way. those three in concert are required. And of course, since we're talking about it, I always, in my time with the Air Force, always made the joke: humble, credible, approachable, pick one. Because I had good bros that weapons school guys, some of my closest friends, was the joke was, hey, if I'm really that good, I don't need to be humble or approachable because I'm so good. And if I sucked, I better be really, really nice guy because people want to talk to me because
Yeah.
I'm really bad in the airplane. So that was always a joke that I threw. In all seriousness, it was really the need to have all three of those was critical. And I think both the weapon schools had that same mindset. If you're going to be a student to be successful, you got to have all three.
Yeah, and at least in the Air Force squadron, yeah, I had really good weapons officers in my time. Very very fortunate. I'm sure maybe one gets through that. Yeah, maybe personality difference, yada yada, but more so pretty good. But that weapons officer, I mean, they come back from weapons school. I mean, obviously, you got the commander, the DO, but like that weapons officer sets the tone for the
He's the
entire
man. Yeah.
squadron.
Yep.
If you're a young dude, a flight lead, a wingman, going through an instructor upgrade, like you're back in the vault all the time, and
Yep.
that's where their office is. So like they really set the tone and temperature of the squadron. If you got one that's not good, then it's not going to end well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we called it the training officer, and I know there's a big difference. Training officer in the Air Force is very different than the weapons officer.
yeah,
Our version of that was the TO. The training officer is the same as the weapons officer. Same thing. That person set the tone and the culture of the squadron. Period.